Ballymurphy Massacre, Kangaroo Inquest, Part 3. How did this brave Irishman, protecting a child from hand grenades and gunfire, become head of the IRA, as stated by many of his men, and head of Sinn Féin? A barman, no less. Like me, no qualifications. But he did have a lot of common sense, because he defeated the politicians, our officers, but never the men. Soldiers were led by British officers who we called Ruperts. This photo is of Sir General Hewlett, who was my commanding officer on the day of internment, commanding the 2nd Battalion, the Parachute Regiment. He did not have a clue about the situation or the troubles then, and he still doesn't now. His statement at the Ballymurphy inquest, he grovelled and apologised to the families for their loss. If his men killed innocent civilians, a priest, a woman with 10 children, the blame solely lies on his shoulders and no one else. He was the commanding officer, at the time a lieutenant colonel. Let me start by saying all lives matter. Soldiers, IRA, innocent civilians. To me, all lives matter. We had armoured vehicles. This picture shows 2 armoured vehicles which we call pigs. But we didn't use them. Instead, we drove around in open Land Rovers that gave us no protection whatsoever. Why? Oh, the officers wanted to save money. It was expensive to run armoured vehicles, but very cheap in comparison to run Land Rovers. So, a soldier died. No problem to them, but for our wives and families, it was a problem. For years during the Troubles, the Ballymurphy Defence Association Committee used the same tactics. Let the children and junior IRA come out, make an incident, throwing stones and petrol bombs. Then the army were forced to come out of the camps and try and stop the problems. Once enough soldiers were out, the snipers could engage the army, and that was the tactic. On the day of internment, it was the same. The children were out from first light, 7 o'clock in the morning, throwing stones. Amongst the children, you could see a couple of adults, IRA, and they were instructing the children what to do during the trouble. The IRA men were initially throwing the petrol bombs and nail bombs, but our commanding officer went outside and stated, anyone throwing a petrol bomb or a nail bomb will be shot. So what did the IRA do? They gave them to the children. So the children started throwing the petrol bombs and nail bombs. A very dangerous situation for children. But they did their best. One child spilt petrol on his arm and went on fire, and his friends had to help him douse the flames. The nail bomb could have prematurely exploded amongst them and killed many children. Did the IRA care? No, they were soldiers, child soldiers. Now, where were the adults? Where were the parents? I never saw any parents come and get their little Jimmy by the lug hole and drag him away and say, "Get out of there, get home, I'll smack your bum." No parental control whatsoever. It was encouraged by parents and the Ballymurphy Defence Association. The woman that was shot and killed on the day of internment, let us analyse that. Let's use a bit of common sense about it. If she was worried about her children, why in the morning and up to late afternoon did she not go and get the children and take them home and smack their bums for throwing stones at the soldiers? Why did she wait till the evening? Now, the next thing, one of her children married a British soldier. Did he marry a child or an adult? How old were her children? Come on, they couldn't have been children, not all of them. And the little ones, she should have had it at home. So the missing children, how old were they? The fact that one of her children married a soldier made her an enemy in Ballymurphy. She had a major problem because before, where families had allowed the marriage of their daughters to soldiers, they were now seen as the enemy within Ballymurphy. She had to go on the front line to protect her family. She had to show the IRA that she supported them 100%, so they didn't attack her own family. Yes, she lived in fear, but I think more fear from the IRA. You go back to the case of Liam Holden, who was the last person sentenced to death, and I gave evidence to show he was innocent. The only reason that he was selected by the IRA to be sentenced to death with their help and Jerry Adams was the reason his sister married a soldier. And this was the problem in Ballymurphy. Marry a soldier and the family are in grave danger, or one of the family can be set up for murder. One of the witnesses at the Ballymurphy inquest stated she was on the waste ground shouting for help. I'm sorry to say, but she'd been shot in the head and half her head was taken away and her mouth. That was the sad situation. I really felt sorry for that woman, and I still do. Many of the people that have given statements at the Ballymurphy inquest, they have been third-party statements. My Uncle Jimmy says this, my Uncle Tommy says this, Mrs. Murphy said this. They weren't there. They are coordinated statements by IRA lawyers, nothing more. They called me a murderer. They said I fired rubber bullets into the wounded. I beat them up. I allowed soldiers to beat them up. At the Ballymurphy inquest, I reassured the families that they were not mistreated in any way or form. I looked after them to the best of my ability. Why did I push the lungs back into the chest? Why did I try to stop the bleeding? Why did I give mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? If I wanted to hurt these people, I didn't have to do anything. I could have just let them die. Why did I work to try and keep them alive? I wanted them evacuated as soon as possible. I honestly think the families were disappointed to find out that I took full responsibility for their welfare and care and treatment, and openly stated that in the court. The A Company soldier that gave a false statement at the inquest stated, "I was using the skull of a dead civilian as an ashtray." I'd just like to finish this part 3 by saying, I don't smoke. I've never had a fag in my life. Okay, they kill you.